প্রিয় দর্শক, আপনাদের সবাইকে স্বাগত অর্থসংলাপে। আপনাদের প্রিয় অনুষ্ঠান বাংলাদেশের অর্থনীতির এগিয়ে যাওয়া, সংকট, সম্ভাবনা সব কিছু নিয়ে আমরা আলোচনা করি এই অনুষ্ঠানে। আর একটি বিষয়ের গভীরে যাওয়ার চেষ্টা করি প্রতিদিনই, প্রতি এপিসোডেই। আমাদের আজকের বিষয় বাংলাদেশের পোশাক শিল্প, বিশ্ববাজারে এর অবস্থান এবং ভবিষ্যৎটা কী। এই যে বাংলাদেশের পোশাক শিল্প আজ এমন সময় আমরা আলোচনা করছি যখন আবার ফিরে এসছে রানা প্লাজা দিবস ট্র্যাজেডি, বা শুধু বাংলাদেশ না, সারা বিশ্বের একটি সবচেয়ে বড় ট্র্যাজেডি রানা প্লাজা। এটা বাংলাদেশের পোশাক শিল্পকে নতুন দিকে ধাবিত করছে। এই বিষয়টা পর্যবেক্ষণ করছেন একজন শ্রম অধিকার কর্মী এবং শ্রম অধিকার সংগঠন আলানজো সুসন। তিনি সলিডারিটি সেন্টারে AFL-CIO সংশ্লিষ্ট যে সংস্থা, তাদের বাংলাদেশের কান্ট্রি ডাইরেক্টর। তার সাথে আমরা কথা বলবো এই বিষয়ে অগ্রগতিটা জানার জন্য। Alonzo, you're welcome to our show.
Thank you for inviting me, Kazi. It's a pleasure to come here to talk to you.
Alonzo, you know, the Rana Plaza Day is again here. 3 years back, it was the greatest strategy in the industrial history of the world, not in Bangladesh. How you observed the 3 years back and now the Bangladesh textile industry?
Yeah, well, Kazi, in the first 2 years after Rana Plaza, I think it was 2013 and 2014, there has been a lot of activities. For example, the organization set up by the brands, two organizations, the Accord, which is over 150 brands, with trade unions based in Europe, and American brands, the Alliance, based in the U.S., and both have offices here. The government of Bangladesh also, with the tripartite with the unions and the employer, which may set up, they call the National Action Plan for Building and Safety. And this three initiative has actually begun to investigate, right? Look at the different buildings factory, and we're talking probably close to over 3,000 factories. So the initial investigation or initial inspection was to ensure that the buildings are structurally safe, right? That there be no collapse. And so on that level, that has been accomplished for now, right? That first level of inspection. And clearly, I think the number of factories that were declared not safe was very small. Over 36 factories were closed.
29 closed, and later on some added,
36. But there's a number over 100 factories were said that maybe it needs to be inspected more. Right? And some risky. And so this first step doesn't mean that everything is up to standard. It just means that it's not going to collapse, right? So the question then is a remediation process. So different factories have different level of remediation, things that needs to get fixed. But so far, only a few factories actually has given a full certificate that they've done remediation, complete remediations, meaning that they graduated and are everyone. There is a panel that reviews it, which is the three initiative, including the government and the IFE, to say, okay, we certify that they've done everything. Only a few factories actually got certificates. So that's really the problem now. 3 years after the collapse, is that the process of remediation, it seems to be very slow. And now, in fact, 80 factories combined Alliance and Accord have no longer a part of that initiative, because either those companies don't want to do the remediation, and so they're taken out of the list of the Accord and Alliance. The
I
question is,
think you sounds that you are very positive about the Bangladesh development. And I think very recently, Transparency International Bangladesh, who is the parts of the Global Transparency International, they said there is a revolutionary development after Rana Plaza. 41% factories made advancement, 30% are doing advancement, and 29% is not. They're in risk zone, but the percentage, the 71% is very significant and revolutionary. They say it's a very good achievement. What is your observation?
well, in a sense that there's, and if we were looking at just on the safety factor, right? For sure, we could say that there's not going to be an imminent collapse, right? But that doesn't mean it's safe, totally safe. There's still a lot of work. Then the question is some of the factory owners have the will to pursue or continue to ensure that they will complete the task, right, before the expiration of both the Accord and the Alliance, which expires in 2018. Assistance are being offered, but there hasn't been that much use in terms of the assistance. So I would say that the industry is, you got the good, you got the bad, and you got the ugly, right? So there are or owners that are taking initiative and actually completing
There
the
is
things.
awareness. I think there is awareness. Awareness is there. This is
Yes,
is a
definitely.
good thing. Still not safe. I feel still not safe. But if you say there is allegation about the buyers or the even the Accord and Alliance, people say in the industry, people say they are imposing, just imposing what is affordable, what is implementable. They are not thinking that. They are imposing, and sometimes they are using very even harsh words. They are blackmailing. Do you think that sort of
Well,
things are happening?
I know for sure that there are probably some miscommunication, that there are probably some, because everybody was rushing, and for sure, because of the awareness, right, there are many owners that begin to just get certain, certain equipment, but it's not certified, right? And so there's definitely some miscommunication.
Alonzo, you are talking about the transparency
Yes.
ranking.
But the other issue that came out from Rana Plaza is the issue of the freedom of association, right? And clearly there was a call within Bangladesh by civil society that workers should have the ability to organize themselves into a union. And it's not only here in Bangladesh, but outside Bangladesh. So there was a heavy call, and if you remember, there was a lot of editorial that saying that if workers had a union, they might be able to not force to get back.
What is the situation of the union rights of workers
in
before
the first, yes,
Rana Plaza and now?
right. So in the first 2 years after Rana Plaza, there was an openness for union registration. In fact, in the first 2 years, over 200 unions were registered. And this is in 2013 and 2014. I have some figures that I could quote. So in 2013, over 158 factories were organized, and the union attempted to get registration, and 84 of them got registered, and 44 got rejected. So that's only in 2013, right? And in 2014, over 392 organized, and 182 got registration. So combined total of 2013 and 2014 was over 250. And that's a historical significant. in terms of trade union in the industry. But this has markedly shifted down. In 2015,
15.
the rate of rejection has really gone up. So out of 134 that got that filed for registration, only 61 got registered. 148 got rejected. And
Why? The valid reasons are there?
well, there's a problem with the process of registration. Right? So the Department of Labor admit that in DACA alone, the JDL, or the Joint Director of Labor, rejected close to 73% of the unions that been trying to get registration. This year, in DACA, it's 50% that tried to register got rejected, and in Chittagong, about 90%. So the question is, why is there a
So high percentage of rejection.
Right? Is this individual choice by the JDL, or is it concerted effort to say
The lobbying or the pressure of the owner's side,
Yes,
you
yes,
say?
yes, yes.
Do you sense that?
Well, it's possible.
It's
right?
possible.
It's possible. And because there are also a number of resistance, as I mentioned, the number of unions got registered, but there's also a number of unions that got busted.
To find the unions, the factories having union and factories don't have union, there is a difference between the safe workplace and the good environment, work environment is there?
Actually, that's a good point that you mentioned, because the current labor law, they emphasize on developing the Occupational Health and Safety Committee in its facility, and the initiatives of both the Accord Alliance and the National Action Plan. They're also taking on ensuring that within their supplier, that they have occupational health and safety committees. And right now, as I know of, there are only 80 or less than 100 occupational health and safety committees. And those committees, or those factories that have committees, are factories that have unions. And the problem is because of the issue of how, if there's no union, how the committees is set up and how the worker sides get elected to be part of the committee when there's no union. So that's the tricky question, right? So in terms of safety, I would say, and the most interesting thing is that the employers have found out that when they had the union interacting in building the committee, that everything was working. And nothing, dogs are not falling out of the sky, right? It's not creating an earthquake, that actually unions have taken a very strong responsibility.
Sometimes it is told that sometimes there is lack of awareness among workers about their rights, about the trade union rights. Even there is sometimes the reluctance among the workers to go to the trade union. How you observe that?
Definitely.
If you compare with Bangladesh, Philippines, and other manufacturing countries,
I think worldwide there is, and part of that is that there is a resistance towards union by employers, and Bangladesh is not an exception. But when you look at the record in terms of a broken record, the employer would repeat over and over is that unions destroyed the jute industry, and so if
as what you told
if
the
that's
the
owner's broken record, of course some owners will view union as very antagonistic. But I think the unions now, especially those that are responsible, also view that the survival, and it's a very competitive industry. So they view that if it's a private industry, right? The survival of the industry or their company is based on their ability to compete and make money. So of course, it's not in the union's interest to destroy that company. It's their livelihood, right? In fact, that's the some employers view union as an ally. There's actually a few.
Susan, we are talking about the awareness of workers. Now we want to divert to other sector. You are representing the U.S. organization AFL-CIO. It is widely alleged that U.S. administration and the stakeholders USA are not sensitive to Bangladeshi workers' right. They always relate withholding of GSP, high tax there, and many other things. They say that the US tell much more, but they give workers or industry very less. What is your observation?
That's really not true. I believe that it's very clear. There's certain points, I think 16 points, where the government of Bangladesh and the industry, if they implemented, will be able to see the restoration of the GSP. And I would like to personally see the restoration of the GSP based on achieving and accomplishing. Now, saying that, it's a work to do this. And if there's a will, it can be done.
Yeah.
It can be done. Just for example, on the Freedom of Association, I mean, the last 2 years have been very significant, 2013 and 2014.
Do you think the only reason that Freedom Association
and then in terms
is
of
not implemented, that's why US not giving facilities to Bangladesh?
A number of things. A number of things.
What are the things?
For example, on the labor law and the rules, there's claim that it was very significant change. It's actually not very significant change.
Yeah, it is also told by Bangladeshi Labor Rights Organization also.
Right. And then the issue of, as I mentioned earlier, the issue of remediation. There has to be a move towards accomplishing this. Both the Accord and Alliance and the government itself said, it's not moving fast enough.
Have you taken these issues to the attention of the government, the Ministry of Labor and the Prime Minister Office, others? What you are saying?
It's not only me that said this, right? I think the U.S. Embassy have stated this, the different visit by different agency from the U.S. government and directors that come here that deal on trade. They address this issue that it's not enough, and concretely is basically pointing out what needs to be done. Now, one can say, "Oh, yes, we have done it," but when you look at the deeper, it's not. So, rather than try to cover things up, let's work together to make
transparently
it happen.
and effectively.
Yes,
I think
because really, I know that there's a big push to get a duty-free, but that push cannot happen unless you restore the GSP. So let's restore the GSP, and I would really want it restored because it'll help the other sector that's not, because the garment's not covered under the GSP, right? It's really not covered under the GSP, and in fact, the industry and the government said, "What's this GSP? It doesn't cover the garment, so the impact is very small."
what is the official stand of AFL-CIO about GSP position of Bangladesh? Does AFL-CIO wants Bangladesh to get GSP again?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned, the AFL-CIO support the roadmap, and if the roadmap is done, definitely.
But I think you gave a roadmap of different organization in USA. What achievements, what advancement has been done in this roadmap? Have you seen any development or progress there?
I think there's been a lot, I wouldn't say achievement, but there's a move towards them. And the issue is, let's finish it, right? Let's get it done. Let's be, I mean, you've seen the increase, but let's make sure that there's, in terms of registration, it's an objective registration, that it's not based on one person, the need for transparency. So in almost different aspect, there has been some movements, but movements is not
The things are done.
It's not done.
We're at the end of this show. I want to make clear one question. Can you specifically point 2 or 3 things Bangladesh need to do for workers' right development, very specifically and in short?
For sure. For example, on the rules, just on the rules of ensuring that unions get registration. The best ways to develop, to get rid of the number of obstacles that has been set up to make it harder for union to be organized and registered. Second, that unfair labor practices, right, that there really is concrete investigation, and the not only investigation, but a decisive action by the Department of Labor on those cases, instead of not dealing with those cases. Issues about the labor court, ensuring that the rules get implemented, right? And so those are just on the freedom of association. In terms of the safety, the movement to increase at least 50% in terms of the remediation or more, right, needs to be done. The EPZ law, right now we just heard that it just got past the cabinet, right? But there's a lot of problems. There's really not big changes in the EPZ law that just got passed in the cabinet. It's almost the same. So I think that's 3 comments.
This should be done. Mr. Alonzo, thank you very much, because in a very short time you have covered a lot of issues, and very important issues are there. Thank you very much from Ekatur Television.
Thank you, Kazi.
প্রিয় দর্শক, আমরা এতক্ষণ ছিলাম আলোনজো সুজনের সাথে। তিনি সলিডারিটি সেন্টার AFL-CIO বাংলাদেশ প্রতিনিধি এবং কান্ট্রি ডিরেক্টর। তিনি যেভাবে দেখলেন ইন্ডাস্ট্রিকে, যে এখনও আমাদের যে শ্রম অধিকার এগুচ্ছে, কিছুটা সচেতন হচ্ছে, একবার বেড়ে আবার নেমে যাচ্ছে এই অর্জনের বিষয়টা, এই বিষয়টাকে খুব গুরুত্ব সহকারে দেখতে বলছেন তিনি, যে শ্রম অধিকার কর্মপরিবেশ উন্নয়নেও একটা ভূমিকা রাখে। আমার কাছে মনে হয় যে আমাদের যারা পলিসি মেকার, আমাদের যারা আমলা আছেন, যারা ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করবেন, তারা সবাই এই বিষয়টিকে ভেবে দেখবেন। আপনাদের সবাইকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ।